Hello, everyone. So it's 5 p.m., but we'll wait a little before starting to make sure that everyone's here, and then we can start. So, as you can see, I've prepared myself regarding the weather conditions we have in Europe, at least most of us. So I decided to be on a cocktail bar at the beach and that we talk about it there because I guess most of you are in the office. So nice to have you here. And let's hope that this is a nice session. It's going to be quite interactive in the sense of if you have questions, you can always ask them in the chat, and then I'll make sure to include them whenever there is time to. And don't worry, in the end, there's also be a Q&A section. So again, let's start. Nice to see you all. I'm very happy because we have a special guest today. So let's put them with us in the room. And maybe before talking about the agenda and everything that's gonna be waiting for us, let's do just a very quick introduction of who we are and what we do. I can start real quick. So I'm responsible that has to do with marketing. And yes, the floor is to you, Yolanda.
Thank you very much, Clara. It's really a pleasure to be here with you both. So I'm Yolanda Sanz, sorry, the GSMA head of the working groups, and today I'm going to talk about how the AI agents can enhance the standardization activity, particularly the one that's happened on GSMA.
Right. Hey, everybody. Naama back. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Understand Tech. Gonna contribute to the discussion today, make a demo, and very happy to have Yolanda with us. We're gonna share her experience on embedded AI in the GSMA working group and how we work it together.
Great. Well, I guess then the scene is set. We can start. I guess we all know why we're here, and Yolanda already talked about it. So it's really about the challenges they had regarding test case creation and how we work together. And then as well, the part of Naama where we're going to have a live demo of what we're always talking about, this test case creator and generator, sorry. And then we have a Q&A time. Yolanda, the floor is to you.
Thank you very much, Clara. So I'm going to share my screen now. Hopefully you'll be able to see. As I say to the beginning, thank you very much, Naama and Clara, to invite me to talk about how AI can help on the standardization activities. Everybody is talking about how we need to standardize AI in order to make sure that we can have interoperability ecosystem. But today I wanted to target on how AI can help on the standardization activities, which is one of the main goal of GSMA. Before going deeply, I want to spend just 2 minutes to explain what GSMA is for those that maybe are not familiar. So GSMA is a non-profit trade association that try to represent the interests of the mobile ecosystem. We are pretty well known because of the Mobile World Congress that happen every year at Barcelona and then in other regions like the one that's coming in Kigali, Shanghai, and Doha. But I coming from the technology department that is taking care of the working groups. If you are not familiar with the working groups in GSMA, we have a great portfolio, but all of them share a common goal, which is put the telco industry together to identify the gaps that the telco ecosystem have, monitoring, for instance, what's happening in Etsy, 3GPP, ITF, and understand how GSMA can fill those gaps in order to be able to provide an end-to-end solution which will be interoperable, because that's the main goal of the working groups, to enhance the interoperability in the telco ecosystem. And we deliver a bunch of specification, particularly the one related to roaming. We have also deployed the eSIM technology and all the ecosystem that are behind the eSIM, which includes the certification. We are also taking care of the interface between the terminal and the network. As I say, so we try to understand how we can help the mobile industry by releasing a bunch of documents. And here you have a portfolio of the different groups that we have. We try to represent the different elements of the telco ecosystem, and then you can scan the QR code that you can see on the screen in case you have interest in understand a bit more of what we are doing in those working groups. So this is just intended to make a short introduction of what GSMA is doing, and particularly where I take care of. But now I would like to jump directly to the goal of this call, which is try to understand how AI tools is going to help in the GSMA and the members as a consequence. And this is coming from an experience that I have while I was managing the eSIM group. So at that point of time, I was managing one of the eSIM group, which is called the test group, that is trying to deploy the test specification that we have for the ecosystem. And at that point of time, there were a lack of few contributors from the industry for many reasons, because the people is busy doing other stuff, deploying products. So is always the test taking low priority. This is a problem that we share with other standardization organizations like Etsy and 3GPP. When I was delegate, I also experienced the same problem. And due to the lack of contributor, that means that we cannot produce a good level of test cases that try somehow to demonstrate that the product that we put on the market are following the GSMA requirements and specification, the one that the industry has decided. Due to this lack of test cases means that the product that can go into the market are also going to be with low quality and maybe require a lot of invest time in the integration part as well, due to the lack of test cases. On the other side, the members also was requesting the need of those test cases, while at the end of the day, we didn't have too much volunteer to write those test cases. For that, I took the initiative without being a test expert, try to draft a test plan and try to draft certain test cases on the basis of my knowledge. And as you can imagine, this took a bit of time, which was more or less 13 working days at the end and 8 hours per day, which is a lot of time for anyone that wants to generate those test cases. And this is just the test generation, because afterwards, of course, depending on the quality of those test cases, the test case validation will take also longer, because we need to go through a long process in order to validate those test cases until those test cases are in a good shape. Means that the GSMA members can accept those test cases because are writing according to the test, according to the core specification, and it's also in the way that we want the product to behave. And then after the test validation, and when everybody's happy, we just go through the test case assessment. And this is always happening with every single test case that we define, regardless of the entity that we have. As you can imagine, this is a very manual process where the human errors are also in place, and took a lot of time to, first of all, generate those test cases, second, validate those until we have acceptance, and then we publish the test specification. And we have a bunch of problems in this journey. Of the test cases are very low because, of course, those test cases in many cases are done by companies that are not test experts as such, but more expert on the core specification than on the test case generation, where in some cases we also missing some edge cases due to the fact that we were not able to identify those edge cases maybe until the product is in the market and the failures start to come. Also, we have an incomplete test coverage at the end of the day because we try to cover the minimum as well that can satisfy minimum level of interoperability, but there are maybe other areas that are no covered at all as well, which of course leads into interoperability problems in the market that all of us will suffer as a user. So because all of that, I was thinking, okay, how we can use the current AI tools in order to make sure that we can automate some of those tasks. And that's when I start to think about how we can use the AI agents in order to produce the test cases that we need. And I was thinking before I contact Understand Tech how this looks like. So basically, so I was having in my mind, and I'm not going to go into the details because Naama will explain in further detail how the tool works, but I was having in my mind, okay, I have the core specification, and then also as an outcome of the test specification, I have the test case format, because every test case needs to follow a particular format which determines the step that needs to perform, the entity, for instance, that is under the test, and the outcome that we expecting after this particular step. So I was thinking if we are able to put this in AI agent, then the AI agent can extract the main requirements from the core specification and then, of course, start to build the test cases. Very ideal in my mind, because after the journey that we have with Understand Tech, we realized that we need more things like the source of the documents that we use in the reference section and another matter. So it was a bit more complex that I have in my mind. But at the end of the day, the idea was to use AI agents for the generation of the test cases with the main objective to accelerate the test case generation, which of course we will be able to produce more test cases in shorter period of time. With using AI tool, also we are improving the quality of the outcome that we have, because the AI tool can analyze not only the core specification, but all the related specifications that are around that. We also, because the quality of the test cases are higher compared when we are using the human behavior, we are reducing the validation cycle as well. We reduce by the fact that we don't need that amount of time to validate all the test cases, because the quality of the test cases are even better than before. And then also we speed up the acceptance, because when we review quite quick, it's also much easier to get the acceptance of the test cases, which means at the end of the day to have a GSMA test specification quicker into the public domain like gsma.com, which is facilitating the companies to start to implement those test cases and run those test cases, which also detect early errors in the product that are still in a development phases as well, which allow us to somehow improve the core specification and the test cases specification. We also been able to identify edge cases that we were not able to identify before, that also can produce errors and can delay the entrance of a particular product into the market. And by default, we improve the quality of the specification. As I mentioned before, we are improving not only the test specification, but also the core, because the more coverage that we have, the more errors we can detect also in the core specification. Because of course, when a product fails, one of the test cases is not only because maybe the test case is wrongly or the of the product is wrongly implemented. It's also because maybe the core specification is not clear enough. So thanks to have more test cases, thanks to have a better quality of those test cases, we are also be able to improve the core specification, which at the end of the day will improve the whole interoperability in the telco ecosystem, wherever is the ecosystem that we have under the test. And this is one of the main goals of GSMA. That's why GSMA is really keen to invest on AI tools in order to understand how we can use those in order to improve the interoperability. And then test generation is, I think, a great use cases where the AI tool can be used for a good thing. And that's why we are really happy to stay here and share those thoughts with the rest of the audience in case you also feel interesting for your own purpose. Then I'm just gonna spend a few minutes more with the takeaways. So as I already explained, AI agents can help a lot on the GSMA standardization activities that happen in the different working groups, because by the using of AI agents, we also have a faster review cycle of the different specifications that we are developing under the GSMA working groups, which of course have an impact directly into the products, increase the quality of the product, increase also the speed on how the products can be developed, and one of the other main goals, increase the interoperability. We accelerate the document development, which is again allow us to have those test specifications faster in the market. So the sooner we have the test specification, the sooner the companies start to test and identify issues that we can have either on the product or on the test specification and the core, and we can involve those specifications based on the errors that are detected. And of course, we improve the quality and the consistency of the specification, increasing the number of test cases, detecting those test cases, which are 8 test cases, but still quite important because they can create a bunch of interoperability problems. So that's why I think one of the key takeaways is that we need to think about AI agents for the standardization activities, which at the end of the day will lead with the improvement of the interoperability, which is, again, one of the main goals that we have in GSMA, in order to make sure that when we put the products into the market, the users can have the better experience, and we will not have errors that can be identified very easy during the test case phase. And with this in mind, I will give the floor to Clara or Naama, that they will explain much better than me how this AI tool is working for the test case generation.
Thank you very much, Yolanda, for that insight. That was quite interesting. And then I'll let the floor to Naama, to don't waste any time.
Excellent. So I will share my screen, but I will just start to say thank you, Yolanda, because you inspired us so much to build this product. Everything that I'm going to show today, it has been built based on your feedback, your group feedback, and the entire community of GSMA. And this is what makes it unique. This is not just an inspiration from Understand Tech that we push it to the market. This is based on the problem you just described, the problem you faced at GSMA and your members. And that's an example of collaboration and AI that I assume every company should hopefully aspire from. So let me share my screen here. Up. All right. Actually, I had some slides, but I'm going to go directly to the demonstration. So Yolanda explained the process. We start from a spec, and the idea is to produce traceable, good quality test cases that reduce the time that an engineer will take to do so, that they reduce the time as well of maintenance when there are new requirements, and have quality. And that's what I'm going to show you today. So when you connect to the platform, the only thing we ask you to provide is the spec. The spec you have drafted within the working group or a product, typically. The spec that describe what the product or what the standard is. Then you can define the test case formats. So each company, each organization, and even each group within GSMA, they have their own test case format. This is where you can specify it. And in our case, let's take the TS34. It's a simple table, like the purpose of the test case, the test scenario, like entry criteria, and then exit criteria. And then optionally, you can put the level of details of the test case. I want conformance level of details. I want like anti-op or engineering level of details. That's a free text where you can describe the level of details you want. And then you put the spec. This go run for 15 minutes, and behind there are multiple agents that I'm going to talk about, but then I'm going to just go and show you an existing generation I have done before to save time. So first thing we do, we take the spec, and in a controlled manner with a template that we already built thanks to the GSMA feedback, we can extract the requirements. Because usually in the spec, the requirement, they are not all the time obvious. In some spec, you can have requirement 1, 2, 3, 4. That's easy. But actually, in the majority of the spec, you have just a bunch of description of a system, whether it's a SIEM, a phone, whatever system we are talking about, and that's it. Our AI system, so there is an AI agent that's going to just extract requirements and then give them to the user who is generating the spec. That's what you see here. So from this TS34, we generated about 233 requirements that I can go and read, and we give full control to the user. He can remove if he's not happy about some of those requirements extracted. He can as well say, okay, let's pick something. This requirement, I'm gonna edit it manually, or I can edit using AI. I will like make this requirement testable, because sometimes some requirements, they are not testable. And this is obvious for experts. So our AI tool gonna go and make a new suggestion of the requirement that make the requirement testable. I can accept, or I can save or cancel. We have as well another tool, which is deterministic analysis. So we're gonna go across the entire requirement we have extracted, and then make some check about duplicates, about quality, about compound. And here you can see that we find about 90 requirements. They share a lot of text together, meaning most likely I need to merge them. But again, we give control to the user. So requirement 1 and 228, they share 87% overlap. That's very hard for a human to do, as you can imagine. That will take a lot of time to take 230 requirements and try to do it manually. The deterministic approach allows you to do this. And in one click, you can merge both. And it's a kind of studio where we allow the user really to go and edit those manually. We can find as well quality issues. One, there are like, if a requirement said, you need secure storage and you need cloud connection. That's not a good requirement, because it's something that I need to split by 2. I need to have one that talk only about secure storage and another one that talk only about cloud connection, so I can test them better. Our system will flag those. Even in the secure storage, the system will flag it as not clear, because we're going to need to talk about what type of storage. Are we talking about like using AES 256 or using some other crypto? So that as well going to be flagged, just to make it easy for the user, to make better requirements, because they are the baseline. So this is something that the user going to take some time to refine. And again, this is just to give them control. And then once this is done, we have generated in the background an AI agent trained on the spec and the entire references that we have extracted from the spec. And this is actually the secret sauce that we worked on with GSMA. Majority of the test cases, when you created them out of the spec, they are not just based on the spec content. They are as well based on the references. In the case of GSMA, we are talking about 3GPP spec, we are talking about OMAS spec, so other alliance or standard spec. And without those, the AI system will not have enough context to generate good quality test cases. So in the background, we have an AI agent that has been trained on the spec, and then we pulled about 500 references that GSMA use. We put them inside the knowledge base that we use to train this AI agent. And that brings us to the next step, which is the test cases. What's the requirement they are refining? We have the agent, we go and create test cases. And when we create test cases, we have what we call score. So a score about like the AI confidence. So in this scenario, we generate like 75%, that's the medium. And I'm gonna explain what is it in details later. We have the defect rate and then the coverage. And the coverage is very important, because you don't want to leave any requirement without a test case, unless if it is not testable. And then you have your test cases, which you can download as a Word document. You can as well push it to your GitHub repo. That's possible. So if I open now the Word document just to show you, it looks like this. So this document should make 50 pages, and that's what Yolanda was describing. It take months to do so. Now I can as well review those test cases directly here. And I'm going to take whatever, let's pick something here that just make sense for everybody. Yes. So we can see here the requirement said the IoT device should minimize the number of network connection between the device and the network. And then you have some explanation. Now we have a test cases that really test this behavior. You can see the entry criteria. So the setup that the test house or the operator need to do, the test procedure, and then the exit criteria. And we give you as well reference from which document has been used to create these test cases. Let's assume you are not happy about this one. You can just click on this button and say, make this test cases, generate, add more edge cases. This is again something that will take time for a human to do. We are going to take again the same agent, the same spec that we have before, and add more edge cases because for us this requirement, this test case is very important. And you will see here that now I have more edge cases that has been added to my test procedure. And this is something usually very hard for us as a human to do because it's just time consuming. You have as well an AI score, which you find here, which is based on three things, like the coverage. So how well the test case reflect the requirements? Does the test case really reflect the requirement or go beyond the requirement? And so if it's really reflecting the requirement, it's going to be almost 100%. If it is going beyond the requirement, it's less. The spec utilization, does the test cases use the spec or go beyond the spec? And then the accuracy of the AI. Is there any issue of hallucination? And so usually it depends, but we turn around 75%, 80% if everything is okay. And some of them, they are very low because we don't have enough context, but we flag it so that the developer or the user can go and make more effort on the test cases. So this is on the test cases. There are a lot of tools that we don't have time to talk about here on the test cases, but you can edit, you can generate script. And then you have another section, which we have developed again based on Yolanda and the team feedback. We try to help you to have a quality score which is based on two things: the accuracy of the AI system, so the LLM, the agent that they are using, did they hallucinate or not? And then a deterministic analysis of the test cases generation. Are there any quality issue? Are there compound test cases? Are there test cases that they are not testable? And we give you this score, like in this scenario for my generation is 64% accuracy. 50% for the structural. So we have like about 33 that they have some issues. And then we see the accuracy of AI is actually very high here, 96%. And then we show you exactly the issues, the structural issues. So which test cases you need to split, and you just click on another button. And we're gonna make the split on your behalf of the test case so that it's testable. You will see it just in a second here. Then as it's doing it, let's go. So yeah, it take the test case and then it split it actually in multiple smaller one because to make it more testable. You can accept or ignore and continue to do your edit. You can see as well the duplicates. So there are like the test case number 10 and 54, they are duplicates. I would like to merge. Same thing. So you have a kind of workspace where you're going to edit really test cases with AI, merge, split, edit with AI. And at the end, if you are happy, you just click on apply, and then done. You have your test cases that they are created. You can as well see conflict. I don't have any conflict here. You can see the risk. So there are a bunch of tools on the AI here that allow you to have quality test cases. And the last mile is the script. So remember, first mile is requirement, second mile is test cases, and the third one, the last mile is the script, the implementation. Like you can have a spec that describes the test cases, but without the script, you cannot test them. So this is something we have in the platform. You can select the type of script you like, end-to-end testing or integration or unit, whatever. Then select the language, the programming language. Let's assume we do Python. And then we give you option to bring context. So if you have some SDK implementation already done, you can use it. You just put your GitHub repo here, and then you click on generate. And we're gonna go ahead and generate the actual script that the OEM or the test house can use to test the actual test cases that they are generated by the tool. That's something, again, we did not invent it. We have been inspired by Yolanda and the entire TSG and eSIM group from GSMA, where they expressed that this is very important. Like the spec is one thing, but having the test script is something else. So we can see here, if I pick something, yeah, you can see the implementation, like in Python in this scenario, and we always give the procedure how you can test this test case. You can download one by one, or push to GitHub if you are connected to GitHub, or download as a zip file. So this is in a demo. The last thing I'm going to mention, and we can open it to the question. We talked about generating test cases out of a spec, but you can do what we call delta generation. And this is one of the issues that Yolanda described. You have a version of the spec 1.0.0 today. Then you come with 1.2.0 tomorrow. The 1.2.0, it has introduced new requirements, which need new test cases. You don't want to restart from scratch. So simply here, you bring your old spec with the new spec, and then automatically the system can identify the delta and generate to you the delta test cases that you need without impacting your test cases that you have already generated before. Thing that will take, again, months for people to do, and it's painful, as you know, because you need to identify exactly what has been added and create the test cases for it. You have another mode, which is section generation. This is mainly you have, with your team, you have a CR. It has been voted, and now you want to create test cases only for that CR. You just put the CR here, that's it. And then the system going to go and create the associated test cases for just that particular change request that you are introducing. So we are trying to build a system that can fit for the overall standard ecosystem. GSMA definitely is the inspiration here, and they are contributing a lot, and we are still enhancing. And the last mile that we are bringing in the coming month is the execution. Once we have the script, now we want to do execution. And there we are working with some industry player in the semiconductor industry to build such products, which are going to come around the summertime, typically. So I'm going to stop here. And I'm sure there should be some question. I'm happy to take that. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Naama, for that input. That was, I mean, I already know the tool, but I guess when it's the first time that you see it, it's quite nice to see everything that's possible now with AI. So yeah, as Naama said, don't hesitate to write any question that you might have, either for Yolanda or for Naama in the chat, and then we'll be happy to answer them. I might have a question because I know it always takes a little time before our spectators seeing what we're actually saying. Yolanda,
Clara, can I clarify? Can I add a bit more what Naama said on the last part regarding the delta, because I think that's quite important. So for those that are not familiar with the test specification, so we are talking about that when we release a test specification, we can have around 1,000 pages for the test specification. So that's why we request to have this delta in order to make sure that we can increase the number of test cases on the top that existing today. Because if we need to start from the scratch, as Naama has mentioned, we are talking about 1,000 pages document. So it's not really efficient at all. If we need to start to validate all of them again, or identify the ones that are new versus the ones that are already existing on the specification, because the amount of test cases that we produce is quite big. So that's why this last part that was explained very well by Naama is quite important to provide more details to understand the context that we are talking about, because there are big amount of effort and big amount of test cases that we don't want to revalidate again or spend time to identify which one are the new one versus the old one. Sorry, Clara, for interview, but I think I was thinking about that. I say, okay, I don't think people will understand, if they are not open a test case, but I suffer a lot, because as soon as you open a test specification in your PC, it starts to crash due to the number of pages that they need to download. So that's just want to mention that, because I think it's quite important for the people working on the standardization to understand the challenge that we face.
And it's good to hear it from you as somebody who done it, because people does not realize, they just assume test cases they are coming, but it's painful in the background. There are engineers like you and other people who does it. And we talk about AI for chatbot and so many things, but this is actually one of the sweet spots that AI have a real impact. So glad to hear. I see some question.
Yes, if you want, I can start with the first one, which is from Sébastien, who says, which LLMs do you use? Do you train them yourself?
Yeah, good question. So the system actually is composed of 3 layers. The baseline is the LLM because you need a large language model, and there we navigate depending on the customer requirement from private LLM like Anthropic, OpenAI, to open source model, which we run ourselves in our infrastructure, and it can even run within the customer infrastructure when confidentiality is very important. And there we use GPT OSS, 20B, 120B, and Quinn and other. So that's mainly dependent to the customer side. The second layer is the agentic workflow. That's completely from our side. This is the deterministic layer because you can take a spec and put it in a chat GPT. It will kind of provide some test cases, but it will drift. It will drift based on its training. It will hallucinate because it doesn't have the same control. And so our agentic layer, it has those control. So template, how to generate test cases. There are some agents that verify the test cases when they are generated. We know how to create requirements. So this is the agentic workflow that we have built, and there are multiple actually agents with GSMA. And the third layer is what you see, that nice dashboard and that user authentication and sharing and editing. But yeah, LLM, it's private, public, and then there is the agent, and there are the interface to users.
Perfect. If you want, I can continue with another one that's from Assad, who's asking if you can talk about costs incurred using LLM.
The cost, so the cost today, it differs really to the size of the document. Definitely, if you bring a 1,000-page document, it's not like a 30-page document. And because simply in the background, our agent gonna make a lot of LLM call. We don't do like ChatGPT where we ingest everything in one shot and we try to make test cases because there you introduce hallucination. We really read page by page. And so every page typically it's a prompt if I try to simplify it for people. And yeah, it has cost, but it's still definitely much reasonable compared to human cost. And we estimate like we are saving 70% of the time. So if you compare this to what human does, you are saving 70% of the time human. So at the end, it depends to how much you spend today, but the cost is still definitely good versus human doing it.
And then there was one from Sébastien. Again, he seems to be curious. He wants to know if the GSMA generated requirements and tests, if they are available on GitHub for review.
Maybe I can take this one. All the test cases that we produce are available on GSMA.com. So those test cases are produced in a Word document or PDF. The requirements part is depending on the group. Some of the group, they track the requirements, but there are other groups that don't track the requirements because as Naama explained, so we have different working groups with different needs. So the requirements at the end of the day, let me put it this way, are what we call the shall, should, could, must, and so on that we have in the core specification. So the core specification also are in a public domain. You can find all of this specification on GSMA.com. And then internally, for those that are member of GSMA, certain groups like the terminal steering group, which is focused on the interface between the device and the network, and it pretty focused on the testing coming from the 3GPP specification. They are particularly using GitHub for the generation of the test cases and the review itself. However, as far as I know, this is only for GSMA members access. But as I say, all the test specification, which contain all the test cases that are going to be generated by the AI tool, are in a public domain. So far, we have none. We are working in a new version of different test specification, and we are going to be able to publish the first version of the test specification is in AI agent, but this is coming soon. But there is no specific GitHub for the test specification for the group that we manage. Nevertheless, there is an open source for other test cases that we are doing, like Open Gateway, and this is accessible to to everyone as well. But that's other type of test cases for Open Gateway. So
All right.
a bit complex question because it's no straightforward answer.
Thank you. And we have another one from Asad again. He wants to know if we envision an automated execution environment of the scripts that we created. I guess, Naama, that's maybe more for you again.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about what I can talk about today because this is public, but definitely this is something we are working on currently with a big hardware supplier. Everything is driven by customers. So what we have done with GSMA is definitely going into the script, but then like device manufacturer and all that they need to test with actual hardware. And so test house, they take those scripts, they implement them, and then they test. So this is what we are working on. So having a kind of connector to the hardware, and as you know, hardware it's different from an OEM to another one. But we are working on some system that allow to have an abstraction layer. You plug the script, and then you can test the actual script on the target hardware. So that's the last mile of the equation here. So really, execution the test, and this is happening during the summertime. So by end of Q3, we should have this available to people.
All right. Well, I think this is it for now. As always, if people have questions coming later on, you can always contact us to know something about it. We do have on our webpage the test case creator generator that you can test for yourself. If you want to, if you have a spec somewhere, then don't hesitate to go on the webpage and test it for yourself. Thank you, Yolanda, very much for being here today with us. It was a pleasure. And I don't know, Naama, if you want to say a last word, or Yolanda as well.
Well, I can just say that thank you very much, Naama and Clara, for the great collaboration that we have between GSMA and Understand Tech. So we are looking other ways how we can use AI on the standardization activities. So this is not finished. This is just the first stone that we put, and GSMA is really keen to invest on AI, how this can help, particularly on the standardization activities, which is where I sit the most.
Thank you so much, Yolanda, for being here. You have been an inspiration for this work. It's a real ecosystem work, and I am a true believer based on my experience of ecosystem, specifically on AI. So let's continue to work together, and thanks everybody for joining in.
And now for those who are in Europe and where it's time to go home, enjoy the sun and have a good day.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.